am Karen Hurd, and we're here with our next edition of Asking for a Friend. And I am absolutely delighted to have Chad Littlefield on, who is all about asking powerful questions. And so delighted to have him here with us today.
So I typically want to ask why questions when somebody does something really stupid. And so that somebody does something really dumb, and my immediate default is, why did they do that? Right? So I might shift that to what was behind that decision. There are two traps that you fall into, which you can say, what made you do that?
Yeah.
Or how come you did that? And what made you and how come are really like why questions that put on a tuxedo and maybe a little masquerade mask and went to the ball and showed up and were like, I'm not a why question, but I am a why question, right? So like showed up in that disguise. And so, what was behind that? What inspired that? What compelled you to show up as opposed to why did you show up today? They don't have to be radical tweaks. But it does, by shifting out of why, it does shift your curiosity as well.
Good. Okay. So what if I really want to ask why? I think you've answered that. Ask it carefully with the what or how.
Here's what I'll say. If you want to ask why, if you really want to ask why questions, because I usually say before I give this recommendation, I usually say what I'm about to tell you is going to piss some of you off because you love your why questions. If you're an engineer or a designer, you were taught to ask the 5 whys. There's even a process about it, right? You ask why 5 times to get to the heart of the matter. Or to uncover a new perspective. Simon Sinek wrote a lovely book called Start With Why. I should write a sequel called Don't Start With Why. I'm just kidding. That's a great book. Yeah. It's Start With Why is a great book. And the idea of finding your why and tapping into like a higher, greater purpose is beautiful. And why does get to that. And so I think it's extremely appropriate to ask why when you're asking it about stuff and things rather than to people. So your simple checkbox question is, when I ask this person a question, am I inviting some of their story, a piece of their perspective? Am I creating open space to listen to them? Or am I pushing them into the land of rationalization and defensiveness? And if it's that way, just maybe rephrase it as a how or what question and see what comes out.
Nice. All right. Final piece of advice. What would you like to, you've got a lot of wisdom here. I've only scratched the surface of like half a chapter. So anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, it's super, super simple. If I were to save you 8 hours of reading the book or listening to the audiobook, double your count. If you want to ask better questions, and if you want to double your connections and double the engagement in your organization and double the amount of trust you have in your as a leader, double your count, meaning your question count. So I said kids ask between 300 and 400 questions per day on average. Adults tend to ask 6 to 12. And so if you just double your count, 12 to 24 questions, it's not going back to the crazy time of 300 to 400 questions, but it's just tapping into your original question, Karen, which is, what are you curious about, right? What are you curious about? And flexing that curiosity muscle is such a gift to you selfishly and to the planet more altruistically.
Nice. Thank you so much, Chad. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Yeah, super fun and glad we could spontaneously book it in.
Absolutely.